What's going on, guys? Welcome to Tech Habit Weekly. This is episode 13. And 13, if you've been following us for the past couple, I'd say months now, 13 is a very unlucky number for us. Even including today, we've had some crazy audio issues. The last couple of times that we've tried to do this episode, we've actually had some major problems with Skype crashing and everything. So we definitely apologize for that. And also for the little hiatus we've been on for about 2 months here. Dante and myself are both full-time college students, plus we work. Me personally, I have a girlfriend in Pittsburgh, so we have to make time for real life, and the show hasn't really worked out. But now I moved my schedule around, and now hopefully we can keep the show on today being Wednesdays from now, at least for the foreseeable future. So sorry for the hiatus, and we'll really try to be back here every Wednesday for you guys because apparently, for some reason, despite all the twerking jokes and Miley Cyrus shenanigans, you guys tend to come by every week. So we greatly appreciate that. And so with me today, like always, is Dontae Harris, KC Nightmare in his awesome glory, and all of his crazy puns and voices are they're all back today as well. And so today we have a show that's not quite as in depth or scripted as we usually have. We have kind of a variety of topics here covering Mavericks and the Amazon drones. I'm sure you guys have all heard about. And so we're going to go ahead and kick today's show off with the discussion of Mac OS X Mavericks. Crazy enough, we haven't done a show since Mavericks was released, the actual official version. That's how long it's been. So, Dante, are you running Mavericks
I
now?
am running Mavericks now, and out of the, I don't want to say out of the box, but basically from the software download that I was able to
Virtual box.
receive. The first good thing about it is I'm sure people know now, but it's 100% free coming from Apple, and this is really the
Yeah.
first time I've ever heard of Apple doing anything like this. And normally their operating systems are they're pretty cheap anyway. They're around 19.99, but from first download from beginning to end, everything has worked fine. I've experienced exceptional battery life out of my 2009 MacBook that I'm using, and all the features and things that are incorporated, especially with having multiple monitor support, has been awesome to me. I mean, especially now, I used to have a 2012 Mac Mini, but I since then upgraded to a 2009 Mac Pro with 32 gigs of RAM and things, and I have two monitors that I use, and just being able to switch to multiple desktops and at the same time and not have it do anything to say your first desktop, maybe say on the right
Mhm.
side or the left,
So
it's really
nice.
nice. You do get the option of being able to have the menu bar across both, so that way when you're on one, you can just particularly control things, everything from like the left side or the right, so you can even shut down your computer,
Yep.
restart and everything from one monitor or the other, and it's worked out exceptionally well for me. So I don't know what your experiences are with it, but I like it. I really like it, especially even with the iBooks integration too, because I've got like 17 gigabytes
Yeah.
worth of iBooks, and being able,
Wow.
yeah, I know, or ebooks, I'm sorry, and being able to use iBooks right there on my desktop machine has been very well for me as far as a college student is concerned. So I don't know about you, but those are my
Yeah.
experiences.
Absolutely. The biggest reason I remember, like when we were covering it live here on Tech Habit Weekly, they announced the better multi-monitor support, and we both were like,
Yeah.
yes. That was like the biggest thing in my opinion. I also own a MacBook. Mine's actually just a year newer. It's the same polycarbonate unibody. I think there's just like a slight bump frequency on the processor, but I have a 2010 white MacBook, and Mountain Lion it ran pretty good on it. I did not run Mountain Lion on there for long because I got it when the Mavericks developer preview was out. But even just updating from Mountain Lion to Mavericks, I did notice a battery life increase. So it cuts down on resources that don't need to be used. So I mean, even right now, I mean, between all my college classes, I still have battery when I come home to do stuff on it. It'll literally last me all day. I wouldn't say all day, but I'd say combined probably 5 to 6 hours out of it with pretty good screen brightness and everything, Wi-Fi, obviously. So that's a huge thing. But on my Hackintosh, it's gone even more flawless. I've noticed less bugs on my Hackintosh than I have on my actual legitimate MacBook, which is something that I didn't really expect, but it's definitely very welcome. I plan on upgrading my graphics card here pretty soon. I really want to have three displays, so Santa's on his way pretty soon here. But I really hope I can get that new graphics card. And having that independent, monitor times three is really going to be a huge productivity booster because I run Parallels. I know Dante, you love
Yes.
Parallels too. I use Windows for a lot of my schoolwork,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but it's just the world we live in. So it's really, really awesome if I can have, say, Windows on one monitor, Mac OS X on one monitor, and on another monitor, just have like a video playing, something to pass time, have some audio in the background. In terms, like you say, of a college student, it's an absolute dream. I really haven't noticed too much performance increase, maybe a little bit here and there, like a couple of numbers, like a couple tens of digits or so on Geekbench scores. But I would say the multi-monitor thing is my favorite. Now, I'm going to say, is there anything that you don't like about
I
Mavericks
mean,
coming from Mountain
coming from
Lion?
Mountain Lion into Mavericks, I haven't, as of yet, found anything that I don't like. But Terrell did make a very good point today, and it's the actual menu bar being on every monitor. Now, I
Yeah.
thought, I was hoping that maybe there would be a way to say if you have your main monitor, the one that you maybe do the most, like maybe your web browsing and everything, well, that's probably the monitor you're going to be shutting down your CPU and restarting and everything on that one, but the rest should be able to just multitask and do the different desktops without needing the bar on every single one. Because I have iStat menus and I tend to have a lot of things across my menu bar, so sometimes it gets a little distracting when you're trying to look at a video or something and you see the bar across every single monitor. That's probably the only thing. But as far as like the integration and everything, and especially using it on a stationary system such as my desktop and a mobile system such as my MacBook, I've noticed the better clock cycles and battery and whatnot being with a
Hmm.
laptop, and some, like you said, some of the little bug fixes and some of the things that I've noticed, like you said, were just the kind of tens of digits on the Geekbench score. Since developer preview into the actual full release that came out from Apple. But as far as like anything, I just dead on just don't like. I can't find anything yet, but the menu bar is kind of more of an annoyance more than anything to be displayed on every monitor. But also, I mean, makes sense because you're able to control. Basically, there's not technically one full desktop. There's not, okay, you can only
Hmm.
use this one to do these tasks. So it makes sense to me. But I think that since we are kind of like specific users, we know if we want to use that desktop
Yeah.
and that's the one we want for that, I think that that bar should be optional. Just like when you're picking your displays. I don't know if people have multiple displays on OS X or not, but when you do, there's different pictures, and you can actually slide wherever the menu bar is going to go, and that's where your dock
Hmm.
will normally be housed. But now you can actually, go over to like your second monitor and swipe down a couple times on your mouse, and the dock will jump over there to that active desktop. So as long as it's actually selected and the bar is not grayed out, then it would actually work. So, but like I said, it's something that I actually absolutely just hate. No, but more of an annoyance and more of a preference. Just the menu bar. That's it.
I'd have to agree with that. There's some things also in Mavericks that I just don't use. For example, like the Finder tabs is something that I really thought I'd use every single day of my life, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But me, I've just been so used to just opening up new Finder windows, having like one on each monitor. So I find tabs something that I don't really use. I'd like to use it, and I might try to force myself to use it because I do think it is more productive than having two separate windows. But that's something I have to try out. Also, as you mentioned, how the dock can be switched from monitor to
Mm-hmm.
monitor just by putting your mouse in the lower. I find myself not really using that. I've just once again my workflow on OS X has been the same for so long that I'm just used to my dock being right
Right.
there. So I know it's never I really don't run into a case where I would move my dock. I mean, I'm just used to not having it that way. But as far as anything I dislike, like you say, sometimes the menu bar can feel kind of, I'll say, clumsy. Other than that, it's a really rock solid operating system, and you can't beat free 50. The
Exactly.
price is absolutely right for this operating system. And actually, there was an article, I forget where it was from, but obviously, because it was free, this operating system has had the highest adoption rate of any version of Mac OS X ever. So that is a huge success for Apple. And honestly, I wouldn't really expect anything less. I mean, if it's free, there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, I'll back up my stuff. What do I have to lose? I can always go
Exactly.
back. So overall, if you were to give it a score out of 10, what would you give it?
Definitely 9.5, and I say 9.5 because of the issues, like I said, with just the menu bar, and that's just a preference, guys. It's not doing anything like finicky, or it hasn't worked the way it's
Yeah.
intended to work inside the OS. But just for a preference for myself, I'm a very specific user, and I like to have things a certain way, and once I set them that way, I think that should just be it. But other than that, that's it. That's the only reason why I can even give it a 9.5 and not a perfect score of 10.
Absolutely. Even, I mean, I use my mail a lot.
Yeah.
I get a lot of emails, whether it's YouTube comments or, anything like that. And I noticed on Mavericks, or sorry, on Mountain Lion, if you're scrolling through a long list of mail, those animations, no matter how good of a GPU you have, they're going to lag. Mavericks completely fix that. I can have the longest list of anything in the world, and I can scroll through it at 60 frames a second. You can't see it, but I'm scrolling right now and I'm seeing no
Right.
lag. and there's like 1,000 emails in this inbox, and it's just silky smooth. It's something that it's a huge improvement throughout the operating system from Mountain Lion to Mavericks. Even like switching spaces, it's a lot smoother. All those OpenGL and OpenCL stuff we rendered a lot better. So huge props up. I agree with Dante. 9.5 is a very reasonable score. And be sure to tell us what you think down below in the comments about what you would rate Mavericks at. So now what we're going to do is we're going to segue into something Apple, so it's kind of like a first to second gear sort of deal. We're going to talk about the new iPads. Now, I personally, as much as I would love to have one, I have not got my hands on a new iPad. Dante, I don't believe you have either. Am I
Yeah, you're
right?
right. I haven't been able to get my hands on because I've been incorporating, basically trying to upgrade my Mac Pro. So I'm taking a lot of money to do that, but it's definitely on the
Yeah.
list of things. And basically, with the new iPad Air and the iPad Mini with Retina display, we've been noticing that basically it's almost 99% identical. It's just basically the only thing that's different is really the screen size and the cameras. Now, with that, I think that's a very good move by Apple because sometimes when you get a product, especially having something that's one size to the other, especially when in the iPad category, since the iPad Mini was basically introduced pretty late into the iPad scene, it was so underpowered to the latest full size one. You kind of felt
Mhm.
like, well, if I'm gonna
You were missing
right
something.
now, and now my thing is, if you're gonna go down that low, I think the price point probably should have just been a slight lower, just because basically it's like crunching down an iPad 2 into the first generation of the
Yeah.
iPad Mini. But now with the iPad Mini with Retina display, now we have the very nice pixel size and everything. The same processor that's in the iPhone 5s and the same processor that's in the iPad, the full size iPad Air. I think that's a very good way to do it because this is like the first time that Apple has really done that. I knew we weren't probably going to see a new processor come from Apple, especially with the iPhone 5s and 5C just launching. As far as a new processor, but I didn't think we'd see like an A7X or A8 or something like crazy like
Hmm.
that this early on anyway. And basically it helps you basically decide how big you just want your tablet to be. Now if you look
Yeah.
at it from price point and everything, you're probably going to go with the iPad Mini with Retina display. But also, some people do like actually the full size of the tablet and of the full size iPad Air tablet, and it's a really good thing. I mean, it's basically tapered more like the iPad Mini with the refined edges and machine edges and whatnot, and it looks really good. I was able to get my hands on one at a local Apple store while just browsing, and it's very nice. I mean, it's
Hmm.
very responsive, very fast, and is able to play high intense graphics and games and things like that. And then especially with me having a first generation iPad Mini now, there's certain games that are out now that are in the App Store that kind of hurts the processor when you're playing. I have a race
Yeah.
car game, I think it's Asphalt 8, and when there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of graphics and debris and whatnot, it slows the game down. Well, on there with the new processor and everything, it just blows out of the water. I mean, you don't,
Silky
yeah,
butter.
it's perfect. And as far as the tablet is concerned, it's definitely my pick. I like the iPad Mini just for the size. Some people like to actually sit
Absolutely.
down and watch movies and things on their iPad Air or full size iPads, and that's great too. But I like it for the portability, being able to actually fit it inside like my inside coat pocket and just take off, and it's a very good thing. Now, as far as the iPad Mini and with Retina display and iPad Air, which one do you think you would be more likely picking up if you had to choose one?
I think I'd go for the mini. And the reason, like you say, it's just form factor. I mean, I really do like being able to hold the thing with one hand. There's some people out there that have like Hulk hands and they can actually one hand, they can like palm the air. That's just not me. I mean, I have average size hands, and so I mean, I do own a full size iPad right now, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I think I would rather after I also went to the Apple Store when I went to go visit my girlfriend down in Pittsburgh. I went to an Apple Store there, and I got my hands on the Mini with Retina, and I just fell in love at first sight. Being able to just picking it up, feeling how
Yeah.
light that thing is, the bezels are so small, being able to one hand it and scroll like this. I mean, I think that is definitely the form factor that wins my heart. And also, from the last generation, like the Mini that you have
Mhm.
now, this has really become a like you say, like a no compromise
Right.
device. I mean, it you've always had your preference on the screen size, but now you have your preference on the screen size without any drawbacks at all. It's really an honest like choice of what screen size you want, and that's it. The only other really difference is that the Mini from the Air, it is clocked zero point 0.1 megahertz slower on the processor, but from every other report that I've seen online, there's really no difference in day-to-day performance at all. And if anything, it's less power, it's less heat inside that tiny little, what is it, like 1 millimeter
Yeah,
even
yeah,
now?
yeah. Really
So
thin.
heat and power is what the iPad is all about. And being able to reduce those in any way as much as you can without being noticeable, that's a win for me. So I think, and of course the cheaper price.
Correct.
I would have to say that I would go for the mini with Retina. I mean, I would love to see how it goes. And maybe next time I go to buy an iPad, then I'll say that iPad 3 with that 10-inch display was nice. The iPad mini with Retina with the 7.9-inch screen was nice. Now, which one do I want to go with the third time? And that would be the real
Exactly.
test. But I would definitely have to say I'd go for the mini with Retina.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Now, one other thing that I want to address here is that do you think Apple would do this with the iPhone? Do you think maybe next year for the iPhone 6, how, I mean, they kind of went with a different screen size and kept the internals kind of the same? Do you think Apple would do something like that when it comes to the phone?
I'm not sure because usually Apple kind of stays on a pattern for a while, but then after a while you do have to kind of switch things up because there's going to be new
Yeah.
customers that would maybe like a bigger screen size or something. So maybe past the iPhone 5s, say if it's iPhone 6 or the new iPhone, whatever they may call it, maybe they'll go with a bigger screen size and then make basically the iPhone 5s. I don't know if they would change the name or anything like that. Maybe they'll just be a cheaper price point, maybe come in as free or something for a new customer on AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, and T-Mobile or something like that. And but as far as internal parts, I'm sure, of course, you're going to have some RAM increase and processor bump and things like that, and better cameras, maybe some better optics and things like that. But as far as screen size, I'm not sure. I don't know if because they've only offered two screen sizes so far, and that's
Hmm.
between the whole span of when it started to now. So I think,
Yep.
and I sometimes I think there's a rule my dad always says, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and it's kind of one of those things. But of course, you see people with these, Samsung phones. I'm just using Samsung as an example, and and they're gigantic. I've seen Galaxy Notes that are just huge, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, you talk on that thing, and I've seen people honestly look like an oaf, hello, how are you, hello, yes, I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock, yeah. So it's things like that. But for me, it's like you said with the iPad Mini. With the iPad Mini, it's the portability and being able to take this thing and put it in one hand and take off. Same thing with my iPhone. My iPhone 5s, which is here, and actually you have a really nice SpyGen case. Very nice. You can get that at spygen.com. Anyway, very portable. I love the elongated screen to be able to scroll more, go through text and emails and things like that, and be
Yeah.
able to just be mobile, more mobile. Here's actually Terrell's. He has a gold one with a black version of the same case. So kind of give you guys a comparison of the gray on mine and the black. And I got the gray because it's space gray, and I think the black looks very good in
Yep.
his gold. Now,
Yep.
um, it's very very portable. Like I said, and I think a bigger screen size would actually bother me. As far as the iPhones are concerned, because I'm so used to that form factor. I've had this form factor, at least as far as the width and things, since like the iPhone 4. And of course, with the iPhone
Yeah.
5, when it got longer, I was like, that's perfect. I mean, I heard when I first heard about bigger screen sizes on it, I was like, I was very skeptical. Then I saw how they did it, and it worked perfectly fine for me. So honestly, if it was a bigger screen, it probably would, drop a few points for me. But until I actually get it and maybe use it, if there is a bigger screen size, it may be different. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
definitely have to see. But I just hope that they don't fall into almost like a fad, just kind of following suit what other people are doing. And there's a lot of rumors out right now about a curved LED screen and things like that they're going to have. And I don't think they're going to go that
I
drastic.
don't see Apple
Yeah,
doing that.
and
Apple to me, they make their own path. They don't follow
exactly,
others.
exactly. So, but yeah, that's my opinion on it. Hopefully, things pretty much change, enough, but not being so the same. Where it's just like, oh, I feel like I could have kept my iPhone 5 from 2, 3 years ago or something. So,
Yeah.
but definitely, speed processing, 64-bit. There's a lot of stuff coming that developers haven't even really tried yet because of the 64-bit desktop processing power of it. So, it's going to be good for the future to see what happens, what Apple does with the iPhone, the iPad, and every other product that's going to be using these type of processors in their mobile devices. So
Yeah, and I think that's a huge reason that Apple brought that same chip. Like from the iPad Air instead of having the iPad Mini with Retina be like a compromise device. I think one of the biggest reasons that they decided to just make it on par with the iPad Air in just a smaller form factor is to get 64-bit without having to design a whole new scaled down
Correct,
processor.
correct.
So I mean, I'm sure Tim or whoever's like Bob Mansfield, whoever's in charge of that decision, whoever made the final call, it's like, just make it the
Right.
same.
Well,
We'll please some people in the
right, and plus
process.
there's still upgradability. I mean, you got to realize these iPads just came out and they don't have a thumbprint scanner. So,
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
an upgrade you can throw into the next edition anyway. So, they're very smart about their upgrades. They don't flood the market with every bell and whistle. They throttle it
Exactly.
back, they make
Yep.
sure things work, and they bring the quality products out one at a time. And I think it's worked for them in the past and it's going to work in the future. So, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it might make some people mad, but for every person I think it makes mad, not only is that more money in their pocket in terms of business sense, but it's also pleasing a lot of
Right.
people. There's no reason to really to go out and want a phone that has everything if you're only 1 year into a 2 year
Correct.
contract. So you could wait another year and say, oh, well, this version has that
Something to
feature. So
like to work up towards, and because
yeah,
if not,
hmm
the mobile market would just stop.
pretty
So
much. Yep, exactly. We can only do so much with the technology we have
exactly,
right now, and it takes time for it to grow. So why put everything now, then have downtime until the next big thing comes
exactly,
out? They can scale it linearly. Makes more sense in terms of
right.
business, at least. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to move away from Apple. We're getting into that third to fourth gear ratio now. We're going to talk about those Amazon delivery drones. It sounds kind of scary, sounds kind of Star Wars-ish. Dante, what's a delivery
Basically, a
drone?
delivery drone is almost like a small helicopter that is going to be used to be deployed by Amazon.com, and they're going to range from having packages. I believe the maximum weight they can actually hold is something around, I want to say, 5 pounds or something like that right now.
I think it was 5 kilograms.
Kilograms, okay. And so, which, what's funny is if you actually look into what Amazon actually carries, they say they have more products that are actually in between that weight category than
Hmm.
not. So it's actually, so they're
Wow.
testing it right now. I saw a video clip of a guy and he had basically the drone would pick up the package and basically they would be able to try to send that drone out the same day that you ordered it, and it could be dropped off at your doorstep, depending on the time, of course, that made your order and everything like that. And they would drop it right
Hmm.
there at your doorstep, and they would take back off and go right back to the Amazon.com facility. And I think it's kind of cool, honestly, because number one, who hates waiting on shipping? Right now, I'm waiting on my video card to come in for my Mac Pro, and even though I
It's the
just hit the
worst.
button, I feel like it should be here like right now, just because I'm like, hey, I already paid for that, So it's just one of those things, and
Yep.
I think that once they actually get something better, because of course this is first time trying this out, then I can see everyone else following suit. I can see UPS and FedEx and different type of shipping and receiving companies doing this thing. But then you got to think about, wait a minute, now what happens to all the guys on the street driving the trucks? Now there could be one of two things. More than likely they'll keep that around because that's just never going to go away because that'll just be like another form of shipping. Meaning I could get
A
something
cheaper
exactly.
form.
I could get 2 day air at any time between pretty much any carrier, or I can just pay the cheaper, ground shipping and just wait 3 or 4 days or something, and maximum maybe a week to get my package. Or maybe the drone might say, hey, we can get that there between, the
30
30 minutes or
minutes.
less or something. And, honestly, I think it would take off because, people hate waiting, but also they need to kind of tweak the design of the drone and how much weight it can carry and to be
Yeah.
carried safely because just think, what if I order a 52-inch LED TV or something and it's being sent over by the drone. I don't know if I think that's too safe. Then the drone comes and it doesn't have it. I'm like, wait a minute, and it's like delivery complete, and here's your email confirmation. I'm like, no, no, no. So
Meanwhile, on your Twitter feed, TV found in the middle of I-79.
exactly. So that has to be something that you have to figure out. And then maybe they do just maybe limit it to certain size packages or something like that. I'm sure there's a lot of regulations. Then you got to go in
Yeah.
and see what are the government regulations on these things because now these are unmanned, aircrafts. So now commercially.
Could you imagine if someone hacks that?
Exactly. You know, you got to realize there's sick because it's a signal that's sending it there. There's probably someone on the end of a control sending in, latitude and longitude. You know, if there's a way to basically tap into that, they can send that thing anywhere. You know, we could basically start
Yeah,
intercepting packages from other people, and things like that.
yeah.
So that there's a lot of things to see. And this is in the very early stages, so of course there's going to be a lot of testing, 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 testing. Of course, with things that are man-made, there's bound to be problems. I'm sure there might be a problem
Absolutely.
with, the actual furthest distance that one of those drones can go. I mean, like I said, with the whole weight
I
thing.
believe I did read somewhere. I think the maximum range from where it gets departed is like 10 miles.
Hmm. Well, that wouldn't
I
benefit me at
think.
all because the nearest Amazon
Yeah, exactly.
place is about 3.5 hours south of my location. So,
Yeah. And I mean, as technology progresses, like right now, there's some, I believe Amazon does offer right now like the same day shipping, but it only works in like really large cities where they do have a
right,
distribution center. This will probably be the same thing until technology can improve that and maybe say, oh, now they can go up to 100
right,
miles, but it'll take an
right.
hour.
So, and if they actually get that figured out, which I'm sure they will because this is their business, that
Yeah.
would be something I would definitely use. Especially just think if you bought, a cheap $3 phone case, and you're like, man, that same phone case in the store was 19.99. Click, and here comes a drone and drops right to, you wouldn't care to get that sent to you, But like I said, I wouldn't want to get my, 2014, 2013, Mac Pro or something sent by a drone. As much money as I spent on
Yeah.
that thing, you know. If
Yep.
that thing shows up here with no Mac Pro and it says it did have it, bet money I kill myself tonight. Death to me. It'll be all over Twitter.
Well, you kill the
Yeah,
drone
yeah,
first.
oh
That's what you
definitely,
get.
oh
You're
yeah.
on
I'd be like,
shoot.
get to the chopper, but so yeah, that would definitely be an issue. But like I said, there's going to be some sort of commissions and whatnot to figure it out. Like what are these things flying around our airspace, and who's controlling them, or does anybody just make drones, to do the because it's relatively simple. These things have been around for a long time. It's just covering the distances and doing the task that they're doing is relatively new because you got to realize this is more of like a military type situation because they use drones for things like that. But to use it in a shipping and receiving deal, I'm sure there's some government regulations and things that they have to go through
Yeah.
first on a business aspect. But cool idea. I think it would work. I mean, like I said, think if you're getting some small package, I definitely send out for it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the only other problem I could see is Amazon is a very, very big
yeah,
company. There's not going to be one drone in the air at a
exactly.
time. I mean, these things have to be aware of other obstacles. I mean, if they're even when it comes down to dropping this thing off at someone's doorway, it has to know if there's a tree there. I
Exactly.
mean, it wasn't going to come down and just like hover into a tree and
Right.
crash and burn. Then all of a sudden you're like in the middle of a lawsuit
Right.
for
Now think
shooting down a
now
drone
think
or
if you're on a
something.
commercial flight or something too, hello, we got flight 757 coming out of Kansas City, Missouri, and just to say if you look down to your left, we've got Amazon drones. Look at them. Look at their formation. This is very nice. Oh yes, peanuts and sodas on the way. So you got to think of something like that. Like you said, this is a big thing. We as people, sitting behind computer screens and whatnot, we don't see how many times people are pressing buy it now and pay and shipping.
Yep.
Think of how many drones would be out there. It would look like, Return of the Jedi or something,
Yeah.
out there. And I think it would be crazy. But yeah, but you'd have to regulate that. Then there has to be like maybe a height minimum that they can fly that's a safe distance. But like you said, they
Yeah.
need some sort of, something on them to say, hey, there's an object here, move this way, or there's a tree, something obstructing, there has to be something. Think about weather, what type of weather we get, in the North America,
Yeah.
just in North America alone, well, I ordered this thing on Tuesday, but it crossed through some tornado. I haven't heard from it since, So yeah, it's a lot of variables. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they say
Yep.
not available due to weather. I mean, these are all just
Yeah.
questions I'm coming up with, and I don't work for Amazon, so I'm sure their team of people
Yeah,
are coming
exactly.
up with the same
They have an
thing.
entire binder
Exactly.
full of
Of would, if, then, if else, they have to come up with all those different variables. No matter how crazy they may sound, you have to come up with a solution for it. Lightning strikes,
exactly.
wind, snow, rain, there's
Yep.
objects,
All it
obstacles.
takes,
Yeah.
if there's a 5 kilogram box hovering above a city or something, all it takes is a good
Oh,
gust of
yeah.
wind in one direction, then followed by another. And that thing, if it drops, you can't be held
Exactly.
responsible because it wasn't your
Right.
fault.
Then electromagnetic
So,
interference. I mean, these are just things I'm coming up with off the top of my head, And
yeah.
I mean, that,
Or
there
hardware
you go.
failure. I mean, what if the thing's battery
Yeah.
dies?
So
that could kill someone if it falls on a
Yeah.
car, you know?
So
I mean, all these different factors are why right now that this is illegal. I mean, it is actually illegal. It's not that, I mean, they're testing it. I'm sure they're testing it, but they have to have very specific permissions, and I'm sure that thing is being monitored
oh yeah,
constantly in this
definitely.
testing. But right now, these are all very, very good reasons why this is illegal. But at the same time, it makes me feel that this is
It's the wave
2013.
of
I
the
mean, there's like
future.
little unmanned things
Oh yeah.
floating. So who knows where this will go? Be sure to let us know what you guys think down below in the comments. Is this going to be something awesome, or is it going to be Attack of the Drones? Star Wars
Oh
pun there. That's
man,
awesome.
copyright
Uh,
that like immediately. New-
buy that domain.
there goes a new animated George Lucas film right
Yeah.
there.
See? Start over on episode 7.
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our second to last topic of a new version of USB is said to be reversible. Now, this is something that we've seen in the iPhone 5 and 5S with Apple's Lightning adapter. As you guys know, it's very much unlike micro USB that can only go in one way. This is a little reversible solution that's absolutely awesome. I've had it plenty of times where I wake up at like 4 in the morning because my TV is on. I realize my phone's sitting there not charged. So I'm half awake. I can just reach down, plug it in. Whereas on the 30-pin connector, those can only go in one way and you have to fumble with it. Everyone knows this technology, but now it could be coming to USB. So Dante, do you think that how do you think this will be implemented in a PC? Do you think maybe there will be some kind of adapters that can turn current USB into a reversible USB, like a little adapter that sits on there?
I think that this technology will be implemented more in newer PCs and laptops and things, but definitely they would have to, the manufacturer would have to make some sort of a backwards compatibility thing. Because think of the issue like with my 2009 Mac Pro. Well, it's got standard USB 2.0, ports on it. So if it can't be backwards compatible to run with something, faster, I can't use it. And you don't want to make a product that everyone can't use. That's why
Yeah.
there's only certain things that are so proprietary that it's like that. And even Apple comes up with adapters to VGA and different audio things, because they don't want to be so proprietary that you can't put something on every platform pretty much. Now,
Yeah.
having a reversible cable for USB would actually be perfect because how many people out there have done this? It goes one way. How many times have you flipped it 2 or 3 times to get the USB to fit?
I don't even want to
Yeah,
count.
it almost makes you feel dumb. I mean, like I can take this flash drive here and put it in wrong, and it only goes one way. And you're going to try, and in the way that it's supposed to go, it will feel like it doesn't go that way the first time.
Yep.
So basically, it would be great because, like you said, I've been in that same situation. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I'm looking around, and I'm all groggy, and see that my phone's got 2%, and I just take the camera, and there it is. And I don't have to worry about it because it is connected correctly. Now, with adapters, I don't know how well that would look or anything like that, but I think definitely they need to have something like that. And of course, you're gonna experience some faster data speed in between the cable and things like that. At least they better because how long has USB 2.0 and 3.0 have been out. So but I think it's going to be a very good adaptation because number one, it helps idiot proof things basically. So
Yeah, absolutely. There's been plenty of times where I go to plug in like a USB on my computer. I'm like, all right, come on, it doesn't go that way. It doesn't go this way either. Come
it's
on.
always about
And
around the
I
third
mean,
try is when I get it. It doesn't even make sense.
yeah,
And
exactly.
some things you do it one time, boom, and there it is. But a lot of time I find it like more with actually USB cables, but like flash drives and whatnot. Usually I can put it in the right way the first time, but normally with the cable, same connector, it doesn't make any sense. I have to do it like 2 or 3 times to get it. It's always one,
It's just
two, and the
something
third one is
that
right,
is,
which was probably the
yeah,
first time
it's
you did it
just,
too. The first same way the first
yeah.
time. So, but
In my eyes, it's not a huge deal, but it's something that once it is implemented, I won't be able to go back to it. It's just that convenient. It's something that's so stupid that shouldn't be
right.
stupid. And that's why it's
Right, but
annoying.
also, there's a
So,
lot of, benefits to having things go one way, and it's because technically it can't be put in wrong because can only go one way.
yeah.
Now, some things that you may, run into with having something that's reversible is maybe the probability of it breaking a little easier, only because it goes in with pretty much no force, you would think. So when people are, putting them in and out, I think there's more probability to breaking them. I've even felt like that with the iPad Mini with the Lightning connector and everything. Sometimes I was like, ooh, I need to watch that the way I take that out because it seemed like I was because
Yeah.
there's only this much, just a tip of it. And I'm like, oh, I could break that very easily. But if it was
Yeah,
one
exactly.
way, and then you got to realize, even with the older 30 pin connectors, there was like a little lock almost on like some of the
Yeah, on
sides.
the
Yeah.
sides.
So unless they come out with something like that, I mean, those pins that go inside the micro USB, that flip down, those aren't really secure. You can just snatch those things out anytime and not have a problem. But I think it'll be good, but they need to do it across the board. It needs to just go
Yeah.
through whatever commissions that they have to go through to get the patent in and say, hey, this is how we're doing it across the board. So USBs are now going to be this, and here's an adapter for backwards compatibility if people
Yep.
have older devices and machines such as your printers and different peripherals that may not have that automatically. If you still have a nice HP all-in-one printer or something, you should be able to still use it even through a new cable, with the use of an
Yeah.
adapter. So but yeah, I think it'll be good, but like you said, I mean, if it goes that way, then it needs to stay that way. So because how long has
Yeah.
this form factor
What
been
the
around, forever.
It's been, yeah, I mean, ever since
Yeah,
I can remember, it's been
right.
the same.
So
So what the industry needs is, like you said, they need something like a Steve Jobs that can say, this is what we're doing, whether you like it or not. We sell adapters if you're not happy. If you don't want to use it, there's other
yeah,
things out
and
there.
I'm
And
sure
it just, that's
and
what it comes down to.
I'm sure we're so far removed from where the standard USB, I'm just gonna say 2.0, but it's like USB 2.0 form factor is going to be so obsolete because there's so many devices that hook up that way.
Yeah.
There's so many. So I don't see it. It's not going to happen in 2-3 years. So but once they actually do, when the data speeds get that slower and files are that much bigger and things, then they'll go,
Yeah.
okay, well, people are transferring a lot more data between these cables. These are pretty much gone. It's almost like having IDE, hard drives and things like that. They're still out there. You can still buy them, but you can't more likely buy a new computer with one. That's just it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but that was around for a long time, and then of course with the serial ATA came out and pretty much took over that market, and we're still using that to this day. But they're already working on new interfaces for that as well. So
I would love this for SATA too, because SATA, I mean, I'm sure everyone in our audience has seen a SATA cable, but there's like this, and there's like a little notch there, so they can only go in one way. I would love a
oh
reversible
yeah,
SATA
yeah,
connector too, just for the record.
be nice.
That would be
Yeah.
absolutely awesome because I mean I build a lot of computers and that's something that is constantly annoying me
Especially
because
putting
a
it
lot of
on the
the
board. That's
times,
the worst. Like, hard
yes,
drives are
yeah, I
easy,
mean
but sometimes you
especially
have to snake your fingers really down low and make sure, and then you end up doing
exactly.
this. And then going again to make sure which way it goes on the motherboard. In some
Yep.
cases are really
And a
tight.
lot of motherboards, if you get like a big beefy graphics card, a lot of times they cover up
Yeah.
some of the SATA
Yep.
ports. Then you're really trying to get up in there, and if it's the wrong way, then it's like
Yeah.
reverse it and do it
Yep.
all again. So please listen to us, industry. We know what we want, and it is possible. So we have the technology. So let us know what you guys think about reversible USB down below. If it's a good way to go, if you'd be one of those people that's upset that they went and want to change something that you're used to. If you think that maybe Amazon, or most of Amazon Android phones or any other phone out there really would ditch micro USB and go to like a reversible connector instead. I mean, let us know what you guys think down below. Now, the last story of the day is going to be something that really I don't think we've ever talked about on the show, and that's going to be gaming. I would love to game more,
Yeah.
but there's not enough hours in the day. I'm sure Dante
Yeah, we
feels the
all
same way.
would.
Exactly. This story here is just going to be about PlayStation 4 and Xbox One sales, what we think they mean. Now, Dante, I don't own either a PS4 or an Xbox One. Are you in the
I'm in
same
the
boat?
same boat. Basically, I do a lot of the gaming that I do have time to do. I can do it on my Mac Pro on either Windows side or
Yeah.
Mac, and especially with the games for Mac actually becoming a lot better. They're actually starting to be kind of right there in the bracket with PC gaming as well. I actually have the Batman Arkham Asylum, yeah,
Arkham
for
Asylum.
Mac. It runs fine. And what's funny is I'm using my Microsoft Xbox 360 controller on the Mac Pro. It works just
Ah,
fine. All
okay.
the buttons are already mapped for it, and it comes up as the
That's
exact
awesome.
button that's on your screen. So if there's a tutorial that says press Y, it's the Y button, and so forth. So they're getting,
Very
the
cool.
integration is getting a lot better, and I didn't have to download any drivers or anything. It was just plug and play, and it was ready to go. And but as far as the Xbox One and PS4 is concerned, now what I've been hearing is basically that the specs coming from the Xbox are pretty much meaningless. I mean, they have I don't know. Well, basically, when you get into something that has such a long span, such as the PS3 and the Xbox 360, I think they've been doing pretty well. I mean, games are selling like
Yeah.
crazy. You like you said, you have GTA 5 for the PS3, and you love it. I mean, right now, I don't see that as being a
Love it.
priority for me to drop $500 or so on a new console.
Yeah.
You know, I need to spend $500 on processors right now. So it's just things like that. You know, I use my computer every single day. I use it, you know, for a lot of different tasks. But to buy a separate console for that, for me personally, it probably won't happen. And by the time it gets to the point where I, you know, actually feel I should buy one, you know, it'll probably be at a discounted price or something.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's just right now, yeah,
eBay.
eBay. And, you know, but right now it's not such a priority to me, even though I'd like to. Now, believe me, if Microsoft or Sony would like to give me one, you know, believe
Or
me,
if I found 500
oh
bucks
yeah,
on the
something like
ground.
that. You know, if a drone drops one or something, you know, I don't know if drones are going to start doing bank deposits, but if one just so happens to drop in my lap, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to buying one. But it, you know,
Exactly.
and I've heard a lot of good things about it. You know, I've heard a lot of good things about the games that are coming out. But the one thing that bothered me was that okay, for one example, like the new Assassin's Creed game that's out, basically they said
Mhm.
they're not going to basically change anything. They're like, yeah, well, I mean, the graphics will be a little better, but and, you know, normally I would
That
think when you go from one console to another, they would, you know, say, hey, well, this is the PS4 exclusive version of that that gives you more this or that.
yeah.
They're like,
More story,
yeah,
more characters,
something. You know, they're
something.
like, nah, man, you get, you know, better. I mean, the water looks better. You know, the facial
You'll
depth.
get two more
There
frames per
you go,
second.
something like that, basically. And so you think right now, especially how long the Xbox 360 and how many games are still out, you know, for it, and that still work for it, and you know, is it really worth it right now? I'm not sure. Now, I think they
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, I don't know if they did it at a good or bad time, only because this last adaptation of next gen consoles have actually lasted a very long time. I didn't think it was going to last that
Yeah,
long,
yeah,
and it did. And because they were smart, they took the same product and started to slightly redesign it, make it a little better, fix the flaws instead of coming out with a new
yeah.
system that's basically just a revamped version of the bad system. And you
The
know,
most cost-effective
exactly
way.
like with the Xbox 360, you know, let's just say the arcade edition, you know, it didn't have a hard drive. Well, then they were like, okay, well, there's an option to get some hard drives. Okay, well, then there was heat issues like crazy with the red ring of death, and so with the
Yeah,
PS3 with the yellow light of death. So then they started to go, okay, let's fix the problem with the heat and everything, get a better heat sink and thermal paste and everything with the Xbox 360 Slim. And well, then they started getting, you know, different variations of colors and Game of the Year editions, you know, Halo and Modern Warfare 3 and things like that. So that helps the consumer want to stay buying the same product. It's the same stuff, you know. So
exactly.
it was a very good marketing scheme. PS3, I mean, Sony did the same thing with the PS3, with the PS3 Slim. And it came in different colors and Game of the Year editions. I've seen a red Resident Evil version of it. There's even a white
I think there
one.
was a God of
Yeah,
War
yeah. There's
one
a God
too.
of War one. There's a white one or something out now, and I mean that's really cool. But now to just throw a new console out there right now, it's to me, I don't know. I don't.
Not much
Yeah,
benefit.
because I remember right before, you know, when the PS2 and everything were pretty much done, they pretty much just stopped like making games, you know, for it because they were getting prepared. So that was the time to go, okay, now it's time to get that next gen console when it
Yeah,
comes out.
exactly.
Well, they're steadily making games for all the platforms, so I don't feel that it's that big a deal, you know, right now. But, you know, for the price point and what it is, you know, I guess it's okay, but we'll just have to see as things develop. So,
Yeah, I mean, in terms of macOS and operating systems, I'm an early adopter. Not so much in terms of gaming consoles. I mean, as long as I have my PS3 that works, a copy of GTA 5, I'm
right.
golden. I have no reason to go out and buy a new system and a new game for that new system. That's really the same thing. So I really right now don't see a need to, but apparently a lot of people did. Right now, it looks like the PS4 since launch, they've sold over 2.1 million consoles. Now, the Xbox One, I mean, that sounds all well and good. Now, the Xbox One, Microsoft unfortunately isn't being exactly clear with these numbers. They actually didn't even give us a number, at least as far as I've been able to tell from my research. What they're doing instead is giving us meaningless
Yeah.
stats. Like, say, for example, in this game, users have killed an astonishing 4 billion zombies, or they've driven 90 million miles in this game. Why would they do that, do you think? Do you think the Xbox One sales aren't good? I can't imagine that
Think
being the
about it.
problem.
When your biggest competition comes out with the legit numbers of sales, the first thing you want to do is say, hey, well, these are our sales. Well, I don't think their sales are as great. Only because people are probably looking at, well, what am I actually paying for when I get this Xbox One? And I think out of the box, and like I said, as far as the games that are out and the games that are going to be ported and all the different animations and things that are basically just going to be a slightly better. How many people even have 4K display TVs to really like utilize those different things anyway?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'll keep this machine. It works just fine. The games work just fine. The games aren't backwards compatible to this. If it's going to be PS4 or Xbox One exclusive, that's just the way it is. But I think that's the only reason why you would give meaningless stats like, users have drank, 2.4 more gallons of Hackintosh juice during the making of this particular game. I think that's a bunch of crap. And, that's just
Yeah.
a way to say something without saying anything at all almost. It's like just a
But
no
to make it try to
nonsense
sound
response
good.
basically. Yeah. You're trying to sell a car, but you're talking about, well, you know what, there's been 0 spills of coffee in this particular car. How many miles does it have? Don't worry about the miles. Let's talk about the windshield wipers. These are the best windshield wipers that money can buy. The rubber on it is extra thick and is going to meet your needs. I think that's crap.
Have you seen that clean carpet in the
It's very
back?
nice. So
The tranny dropped, but
I
don't
just
worry.
don't get it. I mean, anytime companies do this, because I remember certain, companies who made, particular cell phones that I'm not going to name, but they've done the same thing. They're like, oh, well, they have this type of camera and whatnot, but more people like our actual design. And I'm like, well, how many did you sell? Well, we've got some of the best glass that money can buy for a screen. Well, how many did you sell? Our batteries don't run at just 1900 milliamps. We've got a 2100 milliamp version too. And it's like, okay, so
Nice, nice.
obviously things aren't up to par. And I think it's the same thing that Microsoft is doing in this situation. Honestly, I can tell you right now, by the two designs, the look, I don't like the look of the Xbox One. I think it's horrendous. It's like
Yeah.
they started one design on the left side and went, yeah, let's go with the other design. And
It's also
yeah,
pretty
it's
big. It's
huge.
a
It's
big
huge, and
box.
it just looks like unfinished product to me. That's because why is it like almost a carbon fiber ish, on the top of one half of it, then the
Yeah.
other side is smooth. I don't know. I'm looking at it here.
See,
It's just really weird.
I think this kind of ties in with something we talked about earlier with Apple kind of like spacing their products out. What they're trying to do here is say in a year they'll probably just redesign it and they can sell more consoles
Right.
that way.
But then also, I'm sure Microsoft is sitting on a huge amount of the old consoles still. I mean, you can still go to the store and buy
Yeah.
a brand new Xbox 360. So I just don't think the implement of pushing it out was very well because sometimes you catch wind of different companies like Sony and your biggest competitors coming out with products, so now you need to push a product out. Well, sometimes that's not the best market scheme for you because it might hurt Sony's sales for coming out first at a bad time when Microsoft should have
Yeah.
sat back and just got their things together and then come out with a product. But now it was almost like
Had
a
an
race
awesome
war
launch.
against who's going to be the first one to come out with this product, and I think it's rushed. It just the design doesn't look good. I don't know who even okayed that design. I think it's horrendous, and that's just my personal opinion. I mean,
They should be double slapped.
basically, I mean, I think it's horrible. I mean, I think it's worse than Miley Cyrus having her tongue out. I think it's ridiculous. I think this product came in like a wrecking ball. So,
That says
I don't know what your
something.
opinions are on it. I do actually like the design of the PS4. The PS4
It's
is
interesting.
interesting to me, and a lot of people were saying, "Well, it's basically the same thing. It tapers off almost the same as the Xbox," and it does. But I think they were going for more of like a modern, like, what is that
Yes.
sitting there? As the Xbox looks like someone just took two different colors, Legos and just snapped them together and was like, "There it is. There's my
Or
box."
what happened was they're like, we like this one. We also like the carbon fiber. And they just couldn't decide. They're like, you know what? We'll split it
Yeah.
down the middle. Both. Boom.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrendous.
They
I
didn't
don't like it. I don't
commit.
know why, but for some reason the PS4 reminds me of something like out of that movie like Prometheus or something. It looks like some
Yeah,
like
yeah.
beacon of technology that we don't understand just sitting there. It looks really nice. I like the way, and I like the way it sits. I like the way it sits kind of like at an angle and back. And
Yeah.
yeah, it looks really
Even
good.
I think kind of looking at it, even like the disk drive is kind of like it's subtle.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, it's hard to
Yeah.
explain. I don't know.
Sometimes it's the simple things that make something look real modern and sleek, but the hard
Yeah.
edges and things on the Xbox One and just the way it splits and it's tapered. It's like a different texture on this half, but a different. That's really really weird to me. I just don't
Yeah, and I mean
visually.
it's like we
It's
said
just hard on
earlier,
the
it's a
eyes.
really big
Yeah,
box. I mean, maybe that was because of something like airflow or something, but Sony's thing is, I mean, their console is a very good fraction of what that Xbox is. It's tiny compared to the
right.
Xbox.
So
Maybe Microsoft was just being careful not to get any more red rings of death or something going on in there. I don't know, but I agree with you there. I believe Sony does have the
yeah,
better design. I'd
yeah.
agree.
And
But be sure.
oh,
Oh,
and I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, and then plus with us having no official sales, I mean, even in about sales, that strikes me
Yeah,
to think that
exactly.
people have the same opinion, if not worse, about it than what I have. And I'm trying to give them credit. I mean, these
Yeah,
are, Microsoft's a software company, they're a hardware company, so I understand that, these things they're gonna have to outsource and go to different people who are hired by Microsoft to be able to come up with designs and things like that. They can make, Windows look the way it does because it's manipulate you can manipulate it because it's software, but hardware is something you have to live with. Once you sit this thing down, you got to live with that thing. So
exactly.
but Sony's been in this game for a while, and I just think that it's just one of those things because you got to realize who Sony were in competition before Microsoft ever come along, and that was like Nintendo and and different consoles
Yeah,
like that. So well, now that they're gone, pretty much. I mean, they do have the Wii and the Wii U and some other consoles that are coming out and things like that, but they're not so much in the fray as top 1-2 competition. It's Microsoft, and they got in late, so they have to figure something out. That design is horrible, but usually halfway in between, they usually change the design to make it slimmer. There's
mhm.
always like a slim model of everything. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
always.
So maybe with a redesigned model of the same console, maybe it'll do a lot better because I know people like the Xbox 360 Slim, and it was really nice. I like the
Yeah,
fact that it had
it
built-in
looked real
Wi-Fi. I
nice.
mean, matter of
Yeah,
fact, I've got one here, and the built-in Wi-Fi and the touch-sensitive, power button and things like that. I really like it. And but yeah, that design has to go. I don't know what that is.
yeah. I kind of felt the same way. Like even my PS3, I have the fat PS3, the first one that ever
Ah,
came out,
okay,
the 40
yeah,
gig model. I've never been crazy of the George Foreman design, and I feel that if I did get an Xbox One right now, eventually I wouldn't like the design all that much, but I would just kind of get used to it, like I kind of did with my
yeah,
PS3. I mean, it's not the best design in the world, but it works. I mean, once the console's turned on, I'm looking at the screen, not the
exactly.
console. That's what a lot of people I think are going to say. But also right now, I mean, design isn't everything. From what I've gathered from, people online, YouTube videos, everything like that, it seems that the Xbox One is much more of a media center focused device. It has all these different multimedia features. Whereas the PlayStation, I mean, it does have things like, Netflix and things like that, but it definitely seems to be geared more towards exclusively
Gaming, yeah,
gaming. And so it really comes down to what type of a user you are. Personally, I would want to have something like the Xbox One that can, play movies and do all this other stuff. I want to get the most for my
right.
money. I mean, that's just kind of how I am. And so it's kind of like Apple. It's an ecosystem, and if you're involved in that ecosystem, you get the benefits of that ecosystem. So it really depends what kind of a user you are. If you're more of a gamer or you want an all-in-one kind of device, but that's not to say that design isn't important. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Microsoft not releasing official numbers is a big deal? Do you think it's not a big deal? Do you think Sony's doing better or worse? What are your overall opinions even on these consoles? Be sure to let us know down below in the comments. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna close out the show with the tastiest, most cavity-ridden, most delicious part of the show. We're gonna reveal to you guys our tech treats. Now, Dante, kick us off with your tech treat.
Basically, my tech treat for today, it's funny because this particular app I think has been around for a little while now, and I'm not sure if I had already covered it, but this is the, you know what, I think, I'm sorry, I think we already covered this one. I was going to do the iStat, I'm sorry, iStudies Pro app because I'm a college
Mhm.
student, and, I honestly think,
Hey,
I think we already
it's that
yeah,
good of
you
an
know
app.
what? Let's
Let
just
them
do it
know
again.
about it.
Number one, because number one, I just got a huge software update from it to integrate into iOS 7. Well, basically, this app helps me track all of my classes and assignments and everything that I do in college. So basically, I just put everything in, and then you can even put the grades that you got. And since I'm such a stellar student, I have 100% on these assignments here. It's okay, you guys don't have to thank me. But it's a very good app. In the App Store. You can find it in there. I believe it was $2.99 at the time when I bought it, and I use it constantly because it's almost like your notes application on crack. Because basically, you can put everything that you're doing assignments. I'm talking score. 1 out of 10 or whatever, and put the score in, and it will actually average out your GPA down to the decimal point, and it is correct. I have done
Awesome.
it, and what I would do normally, like if you were a college student first starting off, I would think what I would do, take your syllabus, go to your syllabus and start looking at some of the assignments. I start plugging those assignments in first because you got to do the assignments. Then there's usually a point system that says, well, it's worth this many points or some sort of percentage. You can even set it to that, and then by the time you go through it, and be sure to plug in your information as you get graded, and it will average out your grade before your teacher can give your grade out to you. And it's worked very well for me, and I'm able to get notifications. I put my school schedule inside the calendar that's inside that thing, and it notifies me and says, hey, I've got this assignment due. Or if I want to procrastinate for a while, okay, well, I need to start this thing in 2.5 hours. Well, I can set a reminder in the actual app, and it'll say, hey, you need to do such and such assignment, unit one,
Yep.
blah, 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 and it is a very, very good app. I recommend this for any college student because, number one, you got different classes, different assignments, and different things to do in your everyday life, and a lot of people, oh, you can just use reminders and things. Well, not the way this is, because, number one, you can put the actual assignments. I have my courses in there, even the teachers' names and email addresses and like all their contact information and everything right inside this app. So it is literally the one place to go. It basically took all those apps and threw it into one and made it a very good app. And it is a very,
Yeah.
very, very good
Hmm.
app. I recommend this for all college students. And then there's a backup option. I mean, right before I did the actual update, it recommended me, hey, you need to back this up because if you don't, you will lose your information. And so I did the backup, and I was able to resync and get all the class information and everything back, and it works very good. I mean, I can have it email me and things like that. I mean, it's a very good app, and I think everyone else who's a college student should try it. If you have an iPhone, it's in the App Store. I believe it's $2.99 for the price, and for the price to do all that, it's worth every penny. And I'm actually one of those guys that
Absolutely.
if it's not free, usually I'm like, I don't really need that. But if I buy an app, it's a very good app. So yeah,
Yeah,
so there it is, iStudies
absolutely.
Pro, and it's just newly updated with iOS 7. So
Yep, and it's really cool too because they have a Mac app, an iPad app. It's a
yeah,
universal app. You don't have to use like the phone version on the iPad. They have their own application for it. It's universal. So I mean, like he said with like the reminders, whether you complete an assignment, you can tap it, and as soon as you update it, it
yeah.
syncs to all your other devices that it's connected to. So it's definitely a very, very modern and very useful app. And for 2.99, you just absolutely can't go wrong. I mean, even if you're not a student, you could
Yeah.
probably use this for
So I mean,
other
I
things
even
other than
have this
school. I
by
mean,
like when my semesters start and end, all the courses,
yep,
teachers
teachers,
and everything,
instructors.
what time my classes starts on what days, and and it would look something like that, what classes and what day and everything, and it looks very good, and like I said, since all my classes have 100% in it, then let you know how great of a student I am. So it's all right, guys.
Yes, that shining student.
So I'm an overachiever, but very good app. And but let's kick right off into your tech treat for today. What do you have, Bob?
My tech treat is something that I don't know where it's been all my life. I just recently discovered it. If you're a person that does a lot of Amazon shipping, maybe you're gonna get in on those drones once those come out. But I do a lot of client builds, so I'm always shipping computers, trying to keep track of those. I'm always ordering stuff from Amazon, from Newegg, and so I have a lot of packages coming to and from my house. And what I've been doing for God knows how long is I've been getting the email with all the tracking information, clicking it, logging in, and then viewing the tracking information that way. No more with that. I'm done with that because I found an app called Deliveries. And actually, I have the page up here. It's actually called, to find it in the App Store, Delivery Status Touch, a package tracker. That's the actual name of the app. Pretty long, but you could probably just search for Delivery Status Touch and you should find it. And the icon, I have it right here in my shopping folder. Hopefully, this will focus nice for you. But yeah, shopping. Right there's a deliveries app. And once you tap that, you're taken into a whole world of pretty much awesome sauce. I'll go ahead and I'll add a new package here. And so we have the item name, the tracking number, which you can actually use your camera to scan like a UPC or something like that, which is really nice. But look at all these different services they have. These are all different shipping services. Obviously, they have like the most common ones, FedEx, UPS, things like that. But they also have tons of others. And I believe this also works for places outside the United States. So if there's like international shipping companies, I believe those are also in here. But probably one of my favorite uses, I guess, for this application, besides, of course, tracking, is the ability to I can open up that email one time and get the tracking number. I can copy it to my clipboard. And as soon as I open up the application, this deliveries application, without me even telling it what to do, it'll say, hey, on your clipboard, you have what looks like a tracking number. Would you like to add it? Yes, I would. Then you just give it a name. Like, for example, I have a client machine shipped out right now. I have it, the name of the client computer, done. I just hit save. That tracking numbers automatically updates. And as you can see right here, actually, I don't really want to show you because it does have his name. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so this doesn't have his name, but then it takes you right to all your tracking information. And when it reaches a certain checkpoint or when it's delivered, you actually get a notification on your phone saying where it is, what happened to it. Yeah, I found it to be extremely useful. If you're someone that ships packages on even a semi-regular basis, I can absolutely recommend this application. Price is a little steep, $4.99. It is $5. Now, for a great piece of software, that's nothing. We're very spoiled nowadays, so for $5, absolutely, I absolutely recommend it. But for those people that are out there, maybe I don't ship that many packages. I'll just stick with, going into my email and tapping it and logging in. Then that's fine. But if you're like me and you ship a lot of packages, this is an absolute must-have. And I was talking to Dante before the show. I believe you use this application
Definitely,
too, right?
it was funny, right before the show, I didn't know that you didn't know about it, because me and Terrell had this app for a while, and yes, like I said, I paid the price, so it's a very good app. Like you said, the biggest thing is copying the tracking information, and it's already in your clipboard, and it knows it's in your clipboard and imports it for you. That's just one
Yes.
less step, and it works very good. I mean, you can have it give you notifications when it's reaches a certain checkpoint. Like if every time it's rescanned in at another location or reaches like a checkpoint, it can send you a notification and say, hey, it reached someplace 2 hours from your house, expect delivery tomorrow, and it is dead on. I mean, I've had this thing
Yeah.
where it told me that it was supposed to be somewhere, oh, it'll be delivered today at 11 something. I'm like, whatever, I'm off work, and literally around 11:20, here it comes. And there's a guy, and
Yep.
I'm like,
It's awesome.
but yeah, very very good application. And like you said, even with the international shipping companies, there's some companies in there I've never even heard of, but definitely it's something that accommodates all users, if not all, a lot of them, not just
Yeah.
your UPS and FedEx and maybe DHL or something like that that's out there. There's a lot of different ones, and you can choose which carrier it comes from. And usually, when it comes like through the postage mail, you'll get an about range, but not any like real updated tracking.
Like
Right. And then there's
guaranteed.
actually
Yeah.
cloud storage for that app as well too. So
Yeah.
sometimes especially when I ship out devices and things like that, well, instead of me having an actual paper trail of it, I actually just upload them and I save like all the tracking information to a file, and
There
then
you
I
go.
save that file in a Dropbox just in case anyone comes back and says, hey, I didn't receive my tracking, and I'm like, well, I've got your tracking number sitting here and whatnot, and it's just another fail safe that's already built into the program that works really well. And you'll come to know that after you start using this application a lot, you'll love it because you can always go back and just look at the old ones unless you just delete them out of your previous history, and you can just go back and say, yeah, that got delivered, on Tuesday at 6 p.m. or something, and it's a
Yeah.
very good thing, especially when we've had, we all had shipping and receiving scares before, especially as much as we,
Big ones.
ship and receive things, it's a very good application to use, and I recommend it for anyone who does a lot of shopping online, even just for little items, phone cases and USB cables and micro SD cards and things like that. It's just a very good thing to keep it managed in a way to where you're not fumbling through a bunch of papers and receipts and emails. You can have it right there on your app, and you just hit the button. You're like, oh, okay, this is what I have shipped out, or this is what I have receiving. I do it both ways. When I'm shipping something out, I put the tracking number into that to make sure
Yeah.
it's going to be there and has been received and picked up by the person at the time that they told me at the shipping place. And usually I go through UPS. It's just a lot easier process at UPS. And also,
Yeah, it
like right
is.
now, I'm already tracking my video card that I'm getting for the Mac Pro that I just bought today. So it's just I do it, like I said, I do it both ways just to make sure everything's okay. And it's just a fail safe, like I said. But deliveries app, guys, look for it in the App Store. Like Bob said, it's kind of a steep price, but honestly, like I said, if I paid for it, it is definitely a good app.
Very
Yeah.
good software.
So
Good software deserves money.
definitely, definitely for those developers. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very nice interface. Even shows you like on a little map where the
Yeah.
last location was. Where it's, I mean, it really is a really good application. For shipping. I don't see another application that could come to a second, like really close second place. So definitely go out and check it out. I think they actually do have a free version if you want to try it, but you can only track, I think, up to like two or three
Yeah,
packages at
yeah,
a
I
time.
heard about.
So it's a nice trial. I mean, if you guys want to try it out, interface is great, updated for
Yeah, it
iOS
looks
7,
really
so it has
good.
like, the side
Hmm.
swipes, everything. It's really, really well made. So with that said, I don't want to drag that out anymore. Thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, sorry for that crazy like 2 month hiatus, but we should be back here, knocking on wood there, every Wednesday. Hopefully our schedules can stay with us in our favor. Dontae, thank you very much for joining us. Be sure to let people know where they can
They
find
can
you.
find me at twitter.com at KC Nightmare. And also, you can find me here at Tech Habit Weekly and one place for Apple. And, we're going to give a shout out to our producer behind the scenes, Terrell Clark. And, that helps run the cameras and, gives our logos, lower thirds, and things like that on Wirecast. He's just being a beast over there, taking care of business. And thank you for having me and everybody on the YouTube channel to listen to this podcast. We appreciate it. And we're going to try to give you guys more shows on a more continual basis as we are college students and real life happens. So we appreciate the fan base and
Yep.
appreciate everyone, tuning in and, leave us some comments below. Let us know what's going on and we'll definitely hear back from you guys real soon.
Absolutely. We do this show live right before it appears on my YouTube channel. But if you don't catch the live version, then once again, it is uploaded to my YouTube channel right after it. Also in iTunes. Just go ahead and search for Bob Roche or Tech Habit or Dontae Harris, and you'll find it there. Feel free to subscribe. We have both video and audio versions available for whatever bandwidth needs you have. And with that said, once again, and the last time, thank you guys very much for watching, and we should see you back here next Wednesday.